You're listening to the Sensuality Project podcast, where the messiness of real life gets sexy, hosted by Stacey Herrera. This podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Episodes contain profane language and topics of a sexual nature that may not be suitable for children. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to another episode of the Sensuality Project podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Herrera. And this week, I am so excited because my guest this week is Isabelle Rizo, and I have known Isabelle for a long time in internet years. I think that she's so amazing. Let me just say that she has been so pivotal in my growth and expansion in personally and in business. And from the very first time that I met her, which was on a video call, I just immediately could feel that she was a good egg. Like her soul resonated so deeply with me. And I was so impressed by her and her mindset. And yeah, she just really made a really great impression on me immediately. And we've been friends ever since. I love the way she shows up. She is a singularity storyteller, and she runs a beautiful circle, which I'm a part of. And when I say beautiful, like the sisterhood and the support is amazing. Like all the women are just fantastic. But you know, it just speaks to the way that in business or in friendship or in any kind of group or sisterhood, like the person that forms, that shapes the group, the energy of the participants often reflect that of the person who is leading. It's kind of like at work, the department often functions as well and as positively as the supervisor or their manager. It's the same thing in homes, like, the mom and the dad and the energy that they bring play a big part in how the children show up and the way that things function and flow in the house. So anyways, Isabelle is a great space holder in that regard. She creates beautiful space. She weaves beautiful stories. She shows up so raw and so real. And it doesn't matter if she is doing a video or if she is being a digital nomad, which is part of her story, or if she is creating art, like in terms of like painting and canvas and texture. It doesn't matter if she's putting together an outfit because she's very stylish. Everything is so seamless with her. That's one of my favorite things about her. I admire that quality so much. And we had such a great time chatting. It was just super fun. We laughed a lot and we talked about a lot of things. We covered a lot of ground from everything from non-monogamy and polyamory. And we also talked about foreign lovers and, business and being well-traveled. She is amazing. You're going to love this conversation. And I also want to encourage you to leave a review. If you are loving this podcast, make sure to review it up on your favorite platform. That would be really helpful. And share this episode with your girls because this is all about grown women having grown conversations. And there is something for everyone in every episode. So give it a listen. Let's start with foreplay. So what does it feel like to be with the energy of your turn on? Like when your body is turned on, what does it feel like to be with that?
Ooh, it's so funny because I always mention this. I always say, I've just turned into a puddle of goo.
Ooh. I love that.
Yep.
Look, now I'm picturing goo. Like, it's interesting that when you said that, my visual though was like a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Scooby-Doo? I can see this.
Yeah, well, they always would have like some kind of protoplasm or something happening if they were dealing with a ghost or something.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. Because it's not like water and anything. It's just like, it's this slow, like melting.
Yes.
Exquisite goo.
Oh, delicious. Delicious. Okay, so what's the fastest way to get you lubricated? Like if someone was like not doing what, like your body wasn't turning on, they weren't like, what instruction would you give?
This is good. Like, I feel like I'm giving the world permission to like get me very happy. You know, it's when I think about it, it's very light touch, and especially my neck is so sensitive. Anything with the neck, even just just grazing or touch, anything like that. I don't know what it is. That's the button that then like my head goes off to the side and then body rest turns to ectoplasmic goo.
You know, I think the neck is a really common erogenous zone. And I think that it's not something that people readily identify, especially someone when they're trying to turn you on. Sometimes they think that they go right for the hot buttons, tits and clit, right? But it isn't that most of the time. For most people, it's not that. It's usually something else. It's
like, I think also because it's such a vulnerable part of the body, like it holds up your head. The skin is also very loose and not very thin. Something very delicate about that. And I like that subtle, delicate.
Well, and the only bones that run in the neck are the spinal cord, which the nerves are. So it's almost like the nerves are so close; they don't have far to go in terms of sensation. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. So now I'm going to give you 3 clues, and you tell me what the object is. Okay. Nerves can drive you up me. I can have several cracks, and it takes several studs to make me.
Wow. Let me say the clues one more time.
Nerves can drive you up me. I can have several cracks, and it takes several studs to make me.
There's some really good play on words going on. Oh, man.
Yeah, this, I can't take credit for this, though. I got this from someplace. Yeah, I'm not that sharp.
This is really good. I immediately was then thinking of my immediate thought was of a body part. And then I was just like, no, wait, this is something bigger. And then I was like a human. And then I was thinking of a heart. Because it can crack. But studs don't make my heart. So
no, a wall.
Whoa.
You know, like you have to put studs in the wall. You know, I've only one person that I've talked to so far, like got one. Not because I always give a different one, but she got it right away. And I was like, oh my fucking God, that never happens. Like, yeah, those are fun. Those are fun. So I'd love to talk because when I think of like creative energy, like sexual energy embodied in creativity, you are one of the first people that I think about.
Thank you.
So I'd love to know about, like, I'd love to know how if you feel a different sensation in your body when you're creating as opposed to when you are sexually turned on.
Oh, this is such a great question. Because I feel that in my art. It's very strange. It's like when you are being open sexually with somebody, that's a level of vulnerability and realness and rawness and just your subconscious just put out there. And with my art, that's like, I feel even safer because nobody's there to see me perform while I'm making my and it's like something between, like inspiration and me. And it's almost like, it sounds so strange, but like the inspiration witnessing me, just like a lover witnessing you, and you can cry and you can feel things. With the lover, I feel bad if I cry,
Really?
After, because I'm like, oh no, they think that it was bad or something like that. But I'm like, no, there's just so much emotion in that. Like I feel the whole range at the same time, the excitement and the rawness and the vulnerability and the sadness and the loss and the gaining, and it's all at once. And then I fear that I'm too much sometimes with the partner. But with the artwork doesn't like, yeah, bring it. You know, it's just like the canvas is there and like you can be angry and you can feel everything. And it's in those moments where I think I was feeling the most that I brought it to the canvas. And I remember sharing some of the artwork in digital spaces that the women saw those pieces and they're like, oh my God. And then they created their own offshoots of inspired artwork from that. And I was like, man. And then my one friend said, I prefer you to make crappy artwork and feel great than to make amazing art and, you know, feel shitty. And I'm like, it's not shitty. It's feeling the depth of everything. It's feeling and being okay with feeling everything. Because I feel a lot of people don't give themselves permission to feel that full range of emotion.
You know, I'm glad that you brought up the depth and the dark, because the reason I say that is because I was just having a conversation 2 days ago, I think, and we were talking about how really genius people always have this really heaviness about them, like people that are exceptional, you know, especially when their work is about art. Like the people that really, you know, the Hemingways of the world and, you know, the Sylvia Plaths, like the people that have really dynamic work always have this really dark part of themselves. And I can't help but think that the reason that is so is that nothing grows in the light. Nothing grows in the light. Like plants don't grow in the light. Like animals don't grow in the light. Like, you know, if anybody who's a parent knows that you put your baby to bed and you wake up the next morning, you're like, what the hell? You're bigger than you were yesterday. You know what I mean? So I think that but we resist the dark.
Yeah.
We resist the dark way more than the light.
And I think, cause right, we have night and day. You grow in the nighttime and you're rejuvenating yourself and this, and then the sun is that food, and it keeps you going. And I think people are always looking for that light. For me, I find that like the light for me is those moments of connection within darkness, because that's what makes it human. To only have the light all the time, I'm like,
would be sunburn.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, let's have a real conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about the whole spectrum of things. And I'm not just going to be the Debbie Downer, like, oh, my life, you know? But like, that's part of it. When somebody asks me, how are you? I'm like, I say, I feel complex. I feel the full spectrum of everything. Like which angle do you want me to tell? You know, which perspective do you want me to tell you? Cause they're all true.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't just show one. That's what performance is, right? Performance
right?
One, and this is performance art.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's so interesting though, because even though there is the full spectrum, especially people that believe, look, and I'm going to choose my words really carefully.
Yes.
But people that believe that they are on the path or doing the work have a tendency to only want to deal in the positive. Like, it's almost like this idea that that's what we think it means. That's what spirituality means. Like, it means never being impacted. It means never, you know, crying or never like actually feeling down. You know, it means never being around anybody that is not uplifting. I mean, that's fucking unrealistic. I don't know where that world is because I've never been in it. I mean, perception is everything, right? Perception is everything. And I mean, I have a tendency I don't ever view something as like, I never think like, oh, this was a failure or, you know, but it doesn't mean that when something doesn't go how the hell I want it to go.
Right? Like, I'm going to have a tantrum. I'm going to feel upset and I'm going to, you know, and then, you know, I go through those emotions. I don't just bury it. You know, I let myself feel that full range of emotion, go through, make artwork, whatever I need to do. And then I'm like, okay, well, what's the lesson? that is here? What is the experience? And what's the gift in this shitty situation?
Right. And there's always a gift because shit is fertilizer.
Exactly. But it takes me a while. I mean, it's gotten quicker where I can now shift out of that and be like, oh, wow, this is an amazing gift, that this is exactly what I've been meditating about that I wanted. I didn't think it would be delivered this way, but I got what I wanted.
that makes me think about how often, and I know this is a present experience I'm living, is how you have this idea of what you want to manifest, whether it is in your business or in your bank account or in your relationships or whatever it is that you want to manifest. And you're so sure that you can handle the thing that you're asking for. You're so sure that, like, I know I can handle it because I want it. And when it doesn't show up, you either make up a story about how it must not have been for you, or you weren't in alignment. And even the alignment piece is accurate, but I don't think that we always are accurate in the way we're portraying it or perceiving it. Because a lot of times the reason something doesn't show up is you're not fucking ready.
That's a lot of the time.
Right? And so then something shitty shows up instead, when really that's prep work, because you got to get ready to get ready. But I really don't know. And I know that hasn't always been my experience either. It's usually been like, oh, this, if it was meant to be, it would be, you say like the little cliche shit. But the truth is that most of the time we are so not ready for the thing that we're asking for. And that's the only reason it doesn't show up.
Yep.
How do you deal with that? Look, because I need tips.
This is the thing. And I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I get the download, or I get the idea, or I get the inspiration. Like I had this idea 2 years ago after I did my digital nomading and traveling and everything. I didn't have internet for a week, so I had lots of brain space. And the idea came through for an international exhibition. I'm like, I'm not making art. The last time I made art, I was making, zines and, when I was little, making installations in the house and stuff. But I'm a businesswoman. I don't have time to make art. And no, that was a very clear thing that came through. And that's where singularity storytelling came through. And all the art that I make now, and using social media as an art platform, as like a radically conscious self-expression. And a lot of people are like, why don't you share the real parts of your life on social media? I'm like, because I'm using it as my canvas. I use that in my journal and talking to friends, but my social media, I want to leave a really good digital story. So after I pass, I leave really good, cool stuff behind that people are like, what was that? That's cool. Or, they take something from it. That's my art form. But when I got that clear download, I was like, I have no idea how this is going to happen. I knew that I wanted to have my own space. I wanted to settle in Chicago. I was going to make that happen. And then things started lining up. And it wasn't easy at all. And then I had to take on multiple jobs to make things happen. And, but I had this very clear vision, and I would always go back to that. And I talk about this with my clients of their singularity story. What's the story that they want to go through, and what is it going to take for you to get there? And it's going to be uncomfortable, and I'm going to go in crying, kicking and screaming, and taking on part-time work to make things happen while I was, doing international talks and workshops and built up this legacy brand for myself as a travel blogger, to then starting over. It was starting from zero to reinvent everything. And I think what it really was more of that internal conversation. And now I have regular conversations with my inner critic, whose name is Igor. And Igor is the kiss-ass assistant of Dr. Frankenstein. He's always afraid of everything. And so he'd come up when I'd be in this panic mode about yeah, look at you. You're not you're not legitimate. You have this part-time job, or you have multiple part-time jobs, and you're not really who you say you are, and da da da. I'm like, no, I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I know I've been at this since 2008. I know my shit. Okay, Igor, what do you need? What can I do to comfort you? Mm-hmm. And taking out these tools and having that conversation again with you, because he comes up a lot. Yeah, and I just want to kick him out.
Got Penelope. Yeah,
you got Penelope. You know.
Yep.
And I'm just like, but that's a part of me. And if I'm always talking about all these aspects of yourself, and there's this whole group of characters inside, and learning to have conversations with those characters to self-soothe has been really, really good. And always just holding on. Like, as soon as I narrowed down this exhibition, and this is how I did even with traveling the world and having a blog. That was the only download I had. Travel the world and help people. All these opportunities started coming in my way because I had this filter on of like, here's a TESOL thing. Here's an opportunity to teach in China. Here's this other thing. And then the exhibition, opportunity came to have an exhibition in Prague. And I was like, yep, this is it. It wasn't me. Something else was like, yep, this is the thing. Like, what? No. No. And then I said, no, everything's aligned right now. I have to do this. This is for me. And that's when I, got a support network of other artists, therapists, started doing a lot of inner work and trusting myself too, that I could make it happen, losing everything in on that journey. And then having to like rebuild from that when I was already in the building stages. And going through again, the dark, cause I have, anxiety, OCD, depression, knowing that, and this is something that was talked about in a lot of leadership circles. Where do those leaders go for help? And like, I needed to have that support, especially when I lost everything last fall, where I wouldn't do something that would harm myself. So having those tools and practicing them, like the discipline of that, because the other thing that kept me going was these other people and my business are keeping me alive. They have expectations from me that I have to deliver. So no matter what situation it was, and I think this helped because as a digital nomad and a travel blogger, sometimes I have Wi-Fi, sometimes I wouldn't, but I had to deliver the thing on time. That's a very important value for me, and integrity drives me crazy sometimes, and I burned out a lot, but I was like, I want to help this person. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get their thing on time. And if I'm out of alignment or I'm out of integrity, I'll communicate it to the best of my ability, because I forget I'm human.
There's that.
But I think for me, holding on to this vision and creating a story from this vision and telling myself the story again and again, helped me decide what I say yes to, what I say no to, and things to just make things happen. To have, like, I still am in disbelief that there was an international exhibition 2 years later from the download.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. And then another exhibition coming back from Prague to Chicago. Like, what is life?
Right? Surprising is what it is.
So, getting I feel super, I never forget how lucky I really, really am. And I so want, and this is why I do the work I do. I was like, I want everyone to see this too. And I know it sucks, and I know it's painful, and I know it's, but I want to show them that it matters, that their work matters. And, from me doing my work and modeling it, I hope that comes across.
It really does. Like, I'm so inspired, but everything that I feel everything that you're saying, because so many parts of mostly just the losing everything part, I resonate with really strongly right now.
Yes. We're in the middle of it. Oh God.
Oh my goodness. It just seems like even though you can see the light, it seems like as you move toward it, it keeps moving away from you. But, as you were talking though, and I thought of it before, but I feel it differently now, is having a business is so much like falling in love.
And that's why I am single.
Yeah, it's so much. It's like the same experience, the highs, the lows. It's like getting sucker punched every fucking day because you don't know how your business or your lover is going to be, if they have time for you or if they don't, if their attention is on something else. Like it's the same shit.
And that's what it was. This download for singularity storytelling in Germany was like, okay, this is your life. It's almost like a marriage.
Yes.
I'm like, I am married to you now. And there are days I want to get a divorce.
Right. A lot of days where you're just like, you know what? I need some time away from you.
Mm-hmm,
like,
And then, and then things happen and then they like kind of flourish or things kind of break away. Mm-hmm. And then things, they grow or they don't. And then also I grow and I don't. And I realize things that I'm like, oh, okay, this is a good thing for me. And this, and then it kind of becomes like this next level in the relationship and how we communicate differently. And maybe we need to bring an extra person in.
Right? Look, can we talk about it though? It's so interesting because I was having I really am very polycurious. And the reason is because I personally, just like in business, I think that it is really unrealistic and unfair to burden one person with all of your needs. And so even if you are doing a DIY business, it's really unfair to you to burden yourself with all of the needs of your business. Mm-hmm. I mean, and sometimes, of course, there are times when you're in a relationship and maybe there isn't a third person or a fourth person, or maybe there's nobody else maybe you happen to be in a monogamous place in the relationship, even if that's not necessarily the design. Mm-hmm. But one of the things, but again, because they so are the same, the ego won't let a third person be involved. Like I've heard, and again, there are people that are perfectly happy in a monogamous relationship, just as there are people who are perfectly happy wearing all of the hats in their business. So if that's you, this doesn't apply to you. But for everyone else, like the ego doesn't even want you to sometimes play with the idea of bringing another person in because it makes if you can't do all of the stuff, then does that mean you're inadequate? You're not enough? I worked for a woman once and she said to me after hiring me, and after I was there for quite a while, she did not want me to speak to clients because she was afraid they would like me better than her.
Oh no.
But it's like, you hired me to help you, but it's the same thing in a relationship. Like, I have as a rule for me, whether the design is polyamory or not, which I haven't officially had a polyamorous relationship. So I should say that. But, I do not have strict rules around fidelity, not sexual fidelity anyways, because sexual and emotional are two different things. But I don't have rules around sexual fidelity. If you see someone that you're interested in, take care of you. That's don't come back giving me play by play. I don't want to know, but take care of yourself. But a lot of people can't even entertain that concept not because they don't want, they're afraid that if they can't meet all of their partner's needs, then that means that there's something wrong with them. Whereas I personally feel like if I love you and your pleasure is important to me, then does it matter if I'm the one giving you the pleasure? Your pleasure is important to me. Yeah. And I like to cook, but I'm not going to get mad if you eat out sometimes, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Don't come back giving me note cards from the chef. I don't want, you know what I'm saying? But if you enjoyed the meal, excellent. But how do you feel about that? Look, am I just way out?
No. It's very interesting because I've had monogamous and not necessarily. I had a really a close friend that we just had this discussion about polyamory, and I think I've always been polyamorous where I love everybody. You know, I love,
I think I might be more non-monogamous than polyamorous though. But go on.
But I love people, and I fall in love with people. And, for me, we were talking about that distinction between polysexual and polyamorous. Mm-hmm. And it's a very rare combination for me to have somebody that I love that I also am sexual with. Like mm-hmm. it takes, like there's a feeling, there's this knowing, there's this safe, and actually, you know, going out on dates and stuff, you know, you talk to your girlfriends and then mm-hmm. like they have everything I want. They have everything on the checklist and this, but I'm not feeling it with them, like sexually. And then I feel horrible because I'm like, you're such a great person. And then I friend zone them, you know, mm-hmm. but it's like, I gotta have that feel mm-hmm. though.
Oh, well, now I'd love to, now I got to dig in a little bit to the not feeling it part.
Please do.
Have you found any correlation with the level of sexual attraction you have? Think about the people that you've had sexual attractions for, especially the strong ones.
Yes.
Were they wound mates? Right? Because that's my experience.
It's yes, it is. Yes. And you know what? The ones that are like the safe ones, the ones that are like the nurturing and the care, you know, those are the ones that I'm like, nah.
Right.
It's not a feel. But there was one actually that they're kind of they were like half and half. Mm-hmm. They were half wound mate, but also dear friend. Mm-hmm.
But do you think the wound is and I'm still feeling my way through this.
Yeah.
I recognized it in myself. Like, you know, I really want to be so attracted. And then the people that I'm the most attracted to have fucked up qualities that are not good for me. You know what I mean? So, mm-hmm. so now I'm really apprehensive about my own sexual attraction. Because now I'm so aware that my wound is very convincing, you know? And so because of that, like now I don't use my sexual attraction as a gauge mm-hmm. for whether somebody is worth my time or not. I thought that that's what I should be doing because it's like what my body should be turned on. But, you know, like I think that it's in the people that feel safe on the surface mm-hmm. are not really safe because the wound people are not safe for you. Mm-hmm. They're familiar. And so there's a safety in that. So the people that and again, this is my experience. The people that would be nothing like I would pick, right? They don't look how I want them to look. They don't have the same physical attributes that I find very attractive. Those people though are the people that aren't safe because mm-hmm. those people would grow me. Mm. Whereas the people that I found that I have the most sexual attraction for are familiar and they can disappoint me in the way that my body knows, mm-hmm. that my heart is familiar with. And those are really the unsafe people. But they show up on the safety list because they can pass the metal detector. Right?
Yes. It's very interesting because there's one partner that is completely not my type at all. He had very great taste. He dressed very nice though, mm-hmm. Which is great. And the conversation was very good and very open and mature. But I was very surprised that I was attracted to him, and it ended up being not necessarily. I don't know if it was a wound partner or not, but it was kind of a come and go mm-hmm. and then disappear and then kind of thing of just
so inconsistent.
Yeah. But he was completely different from what I mm-hmm. regularly like. And it's interesting because I was talking to another really good friend And she said, "Oh, you're off of this train and now you're on this train now because you're getting, you know." And I'm like, maybe I am. Because I had like this tall, skinny, nerdy white guy thing going on for a while. And now it's like the bearded kind of huskier. I don't know, the testosterone's a bit more there kind of thing going on. Which is definitely very different. And I didn't feel safe with that before.
Well, now you're different.
Yes. And I think there isn't any partner, whether they were wound or not, that I necessarily regretted. There was always something like I gained so much from being with them, in whatever capacity it was. And some people are like, "How could you? Like, that was terrible what they did to you." And da-da-da. And I'm like, that grew me, and that got me like deeper than with anybody I've ever been with or that. And that was, for me anyway, that was like super vulnerable and brave, because I've never, that's why for years I just traveled solo. I had plenty of opportunity to have many wonderful foreign encounters. But due to my own stories and traumas and things, I didn't explore that. So when I did a lot of work on myself, I opened myself up to that. And that opened up a lot of old wounds, but it opened them up in a way that I think was still safe. At the end, it didn't turn out so great, but it had me realize a couple things like, oh, wow, I didn't look at this further. I didn't see that this impacted my life this way, or, you know, and also realizing, wait, I can fall in love. I can trust someone. And that was huge for me. Really huge.
Okay. Let's have some intercourse now that we're talking about it.
Yes.
So what's the most powerful sexual experience you've ever had? Like, just a little description.
Ooh. This I guess comes back to the right. You were saying it's like, it's either top or top or bottom. And that's the thing most people go for, tit or clit or whatever. And, for me, with, my one partner, there was this moment of witnessing, of being, and I never felt so safe just intuitively. And then that safe feeling then led to all these things. And, then what I realized too was I was open to receiving, and also, receiving roughly. I will say that.
Because that's about feeling safe.
That was totally about feeling safe.
Which is not what people who don't know anything about that. They often, you know, they have visual images. Porn is not real. Like, that's a disclaimer. Porn is not real. But people often really mistake what it takes, because that's not the part that they really show. You know what I mean? In most pornographic, you know, they talk about it in books. In erotica, they talk about it. But on porn, they don't really talk about it. So a lot of people really just think that it's about like being rough and slapping somebody around. But it really is about saying, like, I trust you enough to believe and that you will know when to stop. You know what I mean? And that you'll listen when I say the word, or, you know, it takes a high level of trust.
Yeah.
It's not just about, you know, it's bigger and deeper than that.
Totally. And I think that goes back to that sapiosexual part of me. We need to be in the same brain space, or we need to be like, we need to have awesome conversation. I remember having arguments about art. Furious, angry arguments. And we even had arguments about the definition of love, anger, and just like, no, and the sex afterward.
Amazing.
It's so great. It's so great. You know,
full spectrum.
Full spectrum of, I don't know, maybe it's that that contrast. I enjoyed that
polarity.
That polarity, because
I'm a polarity girl. Yeah,
it's that full spectrum. I'm just like, it can't just be one thing, you know. And then you bring in some like really fun clothes and corsets and you know, and you start playing around with different things, and it becomes a performance,
right? And then you see parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
This is discovering all those aspects, discovering, you know, all those different things. There's the shy, you know, one. There's the one that's like completely the vixen. There's all these different archetypes.
Completely.
And it's so fun to accept, again, accept all these different aspects of yourself. And there were moments too when I realized saying, I'd be crying and saying, oh my God, that's an aspect of me. That's a pretty dark aspect of me. You know, like, oh, that's pretty harsh. And then having a partner that would say, no, it's okay. And witnessing.
Yes.
Just being with. That's amazing. And that's what I think, you know, the artwork, going back to the artwork again, the artwork is just the canvas. It's there to receive. And then you can go back and look at it and then just witness. So I guess art is kind of like masturbation.
You know, it comes from the same chakra.
It does. It does.
Okay. So aside from penetrative sex, what kind of sex do you find delicious?
So interesting, because I had a very slow, sensual lover, and then I also had like a rabbit lover.
We'll talk about
like,
rabbit.
I was just like, whoa, wait, I'm not ready. Then you get into it and it's okay. But I really, really liked just, I guess it's submission. It's complete surrender. It's complete, and they do whatever they want. And it's not rough.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, the goo. You turn into that goo, and they like, there's a little bit of the like tousling of hair and
letting someone else lead. Well, and do you think that is connected to the fact that you lead in your work?
And that's what I was thinking about. I was joking. I was like, oh my God, I'm that stereotype. You know, to see those powerful women or anything. And then in the bedroom, they're completely submissive. And I was just like, man, I see those like really high power CEOs and you know that they're into like all the kinky stuff.
Right.
And that's like the story. And it's so legit though.
Because there is something about, I think, you know, again, I don't know if everyone is able to embrace all of those aspects of themselves. And it is very challenging to face those parts of yourself without judgment. You know what I mean? Because once you open the door, you can't close the door back.
Nope.
Which is the reason why some people's doors are bolted. You know,
and that's the
padlocked.
Thing with some partners too. I realized like, wait, not everybody's into the same stuff.
No.
And like I realized not everybody's into like dirty talk or anything like that during, you know, because I remember having one partner like, this is weird. I feel mean. And I'm like, no, it's fine. It's, you know, or it was with somebody, it was a foreign lover. And then they'd start saying things like, oh my God. Like,
you know, some foreign lovers are quite delicious though. There's a completely different aspect of dating someone American than someone who isn't. It's mind-blowingly different.
Can we go into this?
Yes. Yeah. Look, we can talk about all the things. You know, I found with, and it's not just one country either. Any place but here.
Yeah.
That there are even something as simple as love. In America, you can't go on 2 dates and then be talking about you love somebody without your friends being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's too soon. But people from other places do not have those limitations. And love is not like, it takes, 10 dates and, 2 months is a couple of, like love
Here
doesn't have
rules.
those. Exactly. Like those are social conditionings. And a lot of times people do feel these things almost sometimes instantly, but they won't say anything because we've been conditioned to believe that it's not supposed to look like that. But a lot of people from other places do not have those limitations. And they also have less limitations sexually a lot of the time too. So that's not just my imagination.
Nope. It's the same. It's very, very similar. And definitely the love thing is different. Or the other experience is that they are a more mature or older. Yeah. That they've gone through their own stories and things and love and heartbreak. And they've gotten to the point where they're so comfortable with, I really like you. I want to be around you. And, I love you, now, and there's no judgment
at all. Do you find that the people that you've experienced that are more liberal in the love department are maybe from the European continent? Like I found that
they're well traveled.
Yeah.
They're well traveled and they've experienced
that makes a difference. Yeah. The people that have been to more than one place because I have had people that they are foreign, but their travel is just from their country to this country. And so there's still some limitation. Whereas someone that has seen different cultures and seen different things definitely has less barriers.
Exactly.
Because they've literally broken the walls. Right? Like they've literally crossed the fourth wall, or is it the fourth wall or the fifth wall in
the fourth wall? Yeah,
the fourth wall. They've bypassed it, as opposed to because like I've traveled to some Caribbean countries and seen differences, but like I've never been across the pond. I've never been to Europe yet. So I can't say I'm well traveled. I wouldn't say that because there are continents that I've only seen on National Geographic. But
but even just conversing with people from different backgrounds, like I think even for me, if I just hung around other Romanians, it would be I'd have so many limitations immediately. Like, why are you going out on a date if you're not getting married? Right. Like, and is their family, are they well off and and is he going to protect you and that kind of thing. And I still would meet Romanians and they're like, oh, you're such a pretty, like the little grandmas, like, you're so pretty, you're married, you have kids. And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, you got to get married. You have to have some, and it's part of the culture. And I don't throw it away. It's still a part of me, but, I do share that. Like when people ask me, where are you from? Like from Romania, and this is how we do things. They're like, oh, well, you're in a rush then to get married. And then I'm like, I'm a business. I tell them like I'm Western enough where I'm a businesswoman that if you mess up with me emotionally, my business is also at stake. Right. So like you need to know that it's a job.
No, that's real talk, because I mean, and it's true for people that have jobs too. They just don't recognize it.
So it's like I need to, and it's not that I will close myself off from relationship. It's just I need them to understand that it's, like my time. I'm very intentional with my time, and I expect them to also be intentional with their time and present, and like they have their projects and things going on, and I have mine. And like we've got each other's backs kind of thing. And that's that, I guess that's the Romanian in me being like, you are loyal to your family and you build, that kind of thing. Those roots, which has been not necessarily difficult, but communicating that to people of different cultures on dates without me, because I'm still like, in America, they'll say, oh, you're American, you know, and in Romania, the same thing. But here they're like, oh, you're Romanian. But in Romania, they're like, you're American. So it's this very in between space that I sit in. So I have to know, do I bring out the Romanian now? Do I bring out the American
do you say I'm Romanian American?
I do. I bring that up because then they ask, you know, family and things like that. And then I tell them, they're like, oh, your story. And they're like, oh, geez, you know, like political refugee and this. But then it feels like a show, you know, rather than a, like you're trying to get to know me. But I guess that's the performance artist that always comes out on the date too sometimes.
Well, you know, and it's interesting because everything you say leads into some conversation I just recently had, go figure. I was just having the conversation with someone about the difference between, like, I can tell within a few minutes if someone finds me interesting as opposed to if they're interested.
Very, very great distinction.
Yeah. And very different. If you just find me interesting, there's not much for us to talk about.
Exactly.
Because I'm not interested in being fetishized on any level, even if it's just about my brain being beautiful to you. You know what I mean? Because that's not the same thing as being interested in me.
That's exactly, because then I'm like, wait, is this a networking thing or a date? Because my job is to teach people to be interesting.
Right. Exactly.
And to grab their captivate attention and be present. But then having that distinction of, oh, I know this one's interested.
Yes.
But sometimes I can't figure that out a little bit because it kind of goes back and forth. But I do feel that of like, oh, they're seeing me as interesting, or they're kind of like,
well, you know, I gauge it so much by the kinds of questions that are asked and the way that their body responds and how engaging they are. Because when someone is just finding me interesting, they're hearing me, but they're not listening to me. Yes. You know what I mean? So something can easily distract. Like sometimes people are looking at you, but if you look at their eyes, they keep getting distracted and they keep looking away. You know? Whereas when someone is interested, the background noise is quieted because they only can hear you. You know what I mean? Because they're paying attention or whatever. But when someone is just finding you interesting, their attention can be very easily diverted.
Yeah, you can feel that.
Yeah. And the body can't lie. Even if someone's mouth is telling you, oh, no, Isabelle, I think that you're wonderful, blah, 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 blah. Like their body language will tell you and your body language will respond. So even if, like, I have found, here's a great example. I once went out with someone and I kept crossing my arms over my chest and I was telling myself the story. Oh my God, Stacey, it's safe to keep your heart open. It's safe to keep your heart open. That's what my ego was saying. But what my body was saying was, this person isn't safe for your heart. And it took me a couple of months to realize what my body knew in the first 30 seconds of meeting this person.
Now you're having me think a date recently that I have. Like, I think it's kind of like, and I remember because love and jobs go together. I remember once considering this job and I wanted to work from home. And this was when I was still doing health insurance and life insurance. I wanted to work from home and this company was offering me the potential to work from home. And I remember writing down the pros and cons and seeing like the money and the benefits and, you know, all this stuff. How much am I going to save in gas and time and travel if I work from home and all of this stuff? And I ultimately accepted the position. And on the first day, before I walked in the fucking building, I said, oh, I made a mistake, because what I was really doing was trying to talk myself into it. I wasn't weighing the pros and cons. My ego was trying to convince me to do it. So now because when something is for you, there is hardly any deliberation at all. That's the download I was telling you. You have that feeling and that clear vision, and completely. It's like whatever you got to do to make it, it'll happen.
Yep.
Whenever it's meant to be. For me, it was 2 years. For traveling the world and helping people, 7 years.
Right. But it was clear. It was clear. And I think we often have those moments. And if we're not careful, I know my ego is slick as hell. Because I was sure that I was just trying to make sure. That's what I thought. And I didn't even get in the building, in the parking lot, 10 feet from the door. And I'm like, fuck, this is a mistake. And I worked there for 10 days and was miserable for 10 days. And it took for the universe to bail me out in the form of a car accident that totaled my car out. And that's how I got out of that job. I mean, I was okay. I didn't get hurt, but
it got you out.
Yeah. So it could have been worse. Could have been months or years or something. It was only 10 days. But had I been more present in my body, because again, your body can't lie to you. Your mind is on a whole nother trip, but if I had been really present in my body, I would have made a different choice. So I think it's not easy because it's especially when something's pressing, if there's any level of desperation about anything, whether it's money or feeling desperate because you want somebody to like you or you want someone to love you or whatever it is, if there's any of that, it's so easy for your ego to slip into the driver's seat and you don't even know. You don't even know you're now in the back of the car. That it's getting ready to lock you in the trunk. You don't even realize that it's driving until you've gone far down the road and you're like, what the fuck? How did I get here? When your body was like, I tried to tell you.
Yes.
Because it always tells you everything. I don't know why I still don't listen all the time.
No, I think there's nothing wrong with that because I think the ego, right? The ego is always trying to keep us safe. Always trying to keep us safe and knows okay, this is how we need to survive. And without the ego, we probably wouldn't have, maybe at that time it wasn't the right time. We wanted to force the time.
I'm good at
for that
too.
opportunity, but it was still some kind of experience or lesson to learn in some point. I remember actually, this brings up a good thing. I remember I was with my partner, I was at their place and I took a shower and I got out of the bathroom and all of a sudden I just felt like crying and just I need to leave them. And I was just like, nah, what is this? I'm like, no, just, put yourself together. They made me breakfast, and taking care and everything. All the things. And he's like, you have to break up with them. And then they said, well, we have this trip planned and we have to get our tickets. And I was just like, look at you earlier in the bathroom. I'm going to break up with this person. And then it's interesting because a month later, there was a big where it didn't work out. And we had a conversation after. And they're like, you felt it too? And I was like, you felt it too? And it sucked because we both cared about each other.
Yeah.
But there was that intuitive, and I was like, okay, this had its time.
Yes. And I'm glad that you said that because I think so often, again, social conditioning, we have this idea that in order for a relationship to be successful, it has to never end. And that's not true. That a successful relationship doesn't mean it goes on forever. Sometimes they do end. Well, I won't even say that. They change.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to end. And again, I was having a conversation recently about listening to someone talk about a breakup and using language like abandon. And I was like, well, if your partner had stayed in your life based on where you are right now and all the things that are currently going on for you, if you had still been with that person, do you think what's going on for you would be happening now? And the response was no. So then my question became, so did they abandon you or liberate you? And then it's like, oh, you know what I mean? So because it doesn't just be, and sometimes the end can be so terrible. Like it can be so terrible, but it doesn't mean that it is not. If it showed up, it's in your best interest, period, without exception. But best interest does not mean bows and neat wrapping paper. Sometimes it looked like a tattered old brown paper bag with oil stains on it. You know what I mean? Sometimes this is as gift wrapped as it's going to be. Like, but it doesn't mean it's not a gift because it comes in shabby packaging.
That's it.
Look, I done got some really shitty wrapped gifts this year. Like,
that's it. And just like, I think that you bring it up that it is a gift. And,
it is.
And I think that kind of going back to your question earlier of how do you increase your capacity for the dark? Or how do you continue on with your vision, with your story, with your partner, whatever it may be, when you had a shitty present handed to you. And, seeing it as the gift and seeing all the good that is coming. Like one of my mentors would say, this is like, what is the good in this? What is the good in this? What am I not seeing that is so good in this? You know,
and you might not see it that day. You're not going to see it that day. It might even take a couple of months, right? You know, because even knowing in advance that if it's showing up, it's a gift, it doesn't relieve you of the responsibility of processing the emotion.
Exactly.
Like you have to. If you don't, this shitty gift will come back again in a different raggedy wrapping paper. Like
it will. And if you don't sit with it all and just like, I remember some people, because I wasn't making as much artwork, I wasn't posting as much, and they're like, "Are you okay? Is everything fine?" And I would get messages from friends that I haven't heard from in a long time, like, I haven't seen you in a while. I'm like, I'm still making stuff. I'm just cocooning, okay?
Right?
It's just like I'm processing my stuff. You want to sit with me and process all of my shit? All right, if you want to, but it's not your responsibility. This is mine.
Yes, and the cocoon is required. The cocoon is required. It is not optional. It's required.
I found out last year that I didn't know this, that when a butterfly goes into the cocoon,
that it becomes soup.
It becomes soup. It turns into goo.
Yes.
Going back to the goo, I think there's something there of like, I so love being in that goo and I have to feel safe. And even to make artwork, like, even when I wasn't in the most safe circumstances or I was in the most stable circumstances, my art was still a refuge for me to feel like I am a little bit in a cocoon.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I have glimpses of that cocoon so that I don't go off the deep end.
Yeah. And I think that, we as women, we get that every month. We get a cocoon period. And guess what? Most of the time we opt out of the fucking cocoon. You know what I'm saying? We opt out.
This is the week before this interview. Right. Was all cocoon time, sitting with everything. And then the first day was just this of emotion.
Yep.
And I'm just like, and all my lady friends know this. I was like, I'm on my moon time, ladies. And like, I got you. It's fine. It's like, I'm going to just feel everything. And this is what's going on. And they're like, we got you. Yep. You tell this to men though.
And they're like,
you got the crazies now. You got the crazies against you. You're being illogical. I'm like, I know. Can I just be illogical for a day?
It's important. It's important because it really represents a time for you to let go, and as women, a lot of us are so good. Like we will let go like there's no tomorrow if the moon is full, but not when our moon is full. You know what I'm saying?
And that's a cycle though, like with everything in life, right? You hold on to the vision, then you let it go.
Yep.
You hold on to it again and you let it go. And it's like even money, it comes and it goes.
And it goes. It's not here to stay. My next tattoo is going to say, this will change because I need to be reminded all the time. And it doesn't matter if it's good or if it's not great. And I don't want to use the language bad because I don't think it exists, but whether it's welcome or not so much, it still is going to change.
Yeah. And that's like, sex in just one position isn't
right. Nobody wants that. Well, there are people.
There are people that do.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah, that's not necessarily my preference.
I had partners like that, and that was fine. It was still its own flavor of things, but yeah.
But you know,
I like that dynamic polarity.
Yep. and it's like anything. Like you could eat the same thing every single day, day in and day out, and there are animals that do that. But most humans, we have like our tongue is designed to taste different flavors on purpose.
Yes.
Our nose is designed to smell different scents on purpose. We're designed to experience different sensations on purpose.
That's why I'm just like, that's why I feel so rich, just with senses, with, you know, being like, just, oh my God, I'm alive.
Yes.
Feeling things like, geez.
But you know, it's interesting as humans, we're at the top of the fucking food chain, but we are slow to the punch. I was yesterday afternoon, my sister and I were cooking, and I had a fresh corn cob, and I was peeling the layers off, the green off of it. And I said, nature is so fucking smart. All of these layers are on here because it doesn't want the corn to get fucking sunburned, and I can't remember to wear a hat. You know what I'm saying? Like we are smart but dumb. You know, like we're so smart that we still don't get it. We don't get the simplicity, and it's all around us. I went to a state fair not too long ago, and they had like a farm area, and there was this stalk of Brussels sprouts, and the leaves are so big that you can't see the sprouts because the plant knows I need to keep this crop from burning. And we can't remember sunglasses. It's just a thing. Right? Like we have to learn the hard way. I can't tell you how many times just this summer, and we're not even finished, that my forehead has been sunburned because I forgot to put on sunblock, or I forgot to wear a hat or an umbrella or whatever. Even though it's happened a bazillion times, it doesn't feel good. It looks ridiculous. And then I'm looking like a leopard for a couple of days, you know, because I can't remember to do the thing that would protect me. And we do that with our heart. We do it on our business. We do it in our relationships. You know, it's like this constant, we have to learn several lessons. I don't know if I'm going to get the sunburn lesson in this lifetime. I'm not really sure. But
I think with the is you bring up a good point. Is I have my my smartwatch, and it's been helpful, right? I talk about singularity storytelling and like optimizing yourself as a human. But I think first you have to be very mindful.
Yeah.
First, before you add that layer of technology, and like, cause the stuff you put on the internet is there for forever, and it's your like legacy. Yeah. And now we all have the privilege of leaving. Like if not everybody's going to have a New York Times bestselling autobiography or biography. Everybody on the planet is going to have a digital biography.
Yeah. Well, you know, and you had said something earlier about people asking you, why don't you share more of your regular life? And I love that you talked about that, because I'm very selective about what I share on social media about my personal life. I'm willing to be vulnerable. I am not willing to be intimate on the internet, period.
Exactly.
And if I'm in the middle of something that I haven't processed to completion, I'm not putting it on the internet. I'm more likely to share a little bit. I'm a lot more, not all the way, but I'm a lot more intimate in my newsletter because it feels like a container. But it is not on Instagram. It's not on Instagram.
No, because that's a stage.
Yes. And I'm not interested in doing that.
I'm like, I'm pretty out there, you know, I'm out there daily, but, there's my performance side, and then there's the like, okay, there's just the intimate me side. And I try to share that with people that, because it's a lot of businesses and companies were playing with that, where the internet used to be that space of intimacy, and you'd find your little cocoon of people, and then companies came in and kind of swooped in and performed as intimate individuals. And now I'm teaching regular people the game, but in a way, making it their creative practice of making it their, like, what are you doing? You know, like, what is this painting that or what is this performance that you're doing? In a way that captures attention, in a way that is a kind of refined expression of you if you were a performer. Because actors practice tons before they go on stage. Dancers practice before. Sometimes they share their behind the scenes, right? To get people invited to see like how their toes are all curled up, like ballet dancers, like all like deformed, and the pain in that. But most people, like we were saying at the beginning, light doesn't feed them.
Right.
Like, you know, sharing the successes is great, but I share my successes, and then I only share those vulnerable things after, like you said, after I've gone through my processing. Because if I share with people the day in, day out of like my bitching and moaning, right? Like people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear, and that's what my intimate circles are for. What my therapist is for. What, you know, mentors and close friends, you know, are for. And even having like a discussion like this on the podcast is still, in a way, I'm not going to bill all of my things on here, but I will give things that are still relevant to my own journey, what I have learned, vulnerable things. I can still show vulnerable things based on my audience and the people that I've talked to, that I think them knowing a few different things, like things that I've revealed on this podcast, they'll be like, oh, you know, but I see this podcast and this discussion as an open venue to having safe conversation and mindful conversation around sexuality, which is a part of the human
and
experience.
It's part of everything. Like someone asked me recently, like, you know, Stacey, you know so many things about so many things. Why is your work about, you know, sensuality and sexuality? And I said, well, how is it different? Because life is sexually transmitted. So the fact that we pretend to have conversations that are not about sex, when sex is happening all around us, birds and the bees are doing it. The flowers and the trees are doing it. Humans are fucking doing it. You know what I'm saying? And the reason that life continues and the reason that we are here and able to even have these conversations is because everything on the planet is fucking. Right? Like we have to. And again, like we talked about business and we talked about sex and we talked about relationships.
Yep.
All of them are the same kind of dynamic. It's just you do it in a different way, you know, but it's no different than the fact that ice and steam and rain and ocean.
Water.
Exactly.
Yep. And I think I don't know if it's a feminine perspective, but is the conversation that I have, you know, with all my women. And so I think women leaders and having women discuss this and how it's important, as an important aspect of yourself to say like, hey, I don't remember who it was that they were talking about it. Like, no, it's important for me to get my sexy time like once a day. That's my need. And I know that about myself. And the self-awareness to have that, like that, I think this podcast is also bringing in the opportunity for introspection and self-awareness. Yeah. Where people, I still am surprised. Maybe it's because we're in this space all the time. Right. And we're always introspecting. Yeah. And doing this work and being around these kinds of people. But then you have regular conversations with people and like, nobody's ever asked me that, or I've never had this opportunity to express myself. And I'm like, what? Oh, I forget I'm in this world, you know?
Yeah. It's very easy to forget. Yeah.
Where all my best friends are therapists, psychologists, coaches, personal development individuals, or, you know.
Where people care not just about how you're doing on the surface, but they really want to know. And, you know, if someone asks you like, how is your heart? They really want to know because they know that you being able to share that is important to your well-being. And they're not looking for you to just say, fine.
Exactly. And it's the being seen, being witnessed that I think is what's missing currently in business environments and we're still, you know, trying to figure out what that landscape looks like where you can still earn a living, but still be mindful. And it's this, I think that there are some really great models that are coming through around this. Like you mentioned, like even the relationship models that are around now are also shifting and changing.
People are talking about the things that people were afraid to even, like, nobody wanted you to know because everyone would think it was strange, or it was really hushed, where people knew, but nobody said it. Like they observed it, but they didn't say anything, and now people are getting really comfortable, like saying like, this is who I am. And because my relationship looks different than yours doesn't mean that my relationship is less stable or less valid or less important than your relationship. It just means it looks different.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to put a period. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question for aftercare. What's your favorite way to be taken care of post-sex?
Love being held.
Me too.
Yeah, just being held. Not even really saying much, but just being held and being, again, the safe thing is the whole kind of thread of it all. And that takes a really special someone.
Look, probably the audience is mostly women, but if you know a guy.
I know my lady friends like, well, I met this lovely man for you.
This is great.
I know that, like you said, divine timing. And when there's space, I also write, you have to create that space for somebody, that it happens when it happens. And it's totally
always
fine.
It's, it's really cliche, but it's always least expected.
It truly is though. Really. And it's like, you do all this prep work and manifesting work and everything. And you're just like, this is the list. This is it. And then you find somebody and you're like,
where did you come from?
Yeah. Like, what planet are you from? Hello, friend. Hello.
Yes. Oh, this was so delicious. I just love everything about your way. You know what? One more thing before, I am always so surprised at how tall you are.
Is it my photos that came out?
Well, I think, and maybe it's because in my mind, I always thought you were like super small.
Everybody thinks
I don't know why, but I always thought.
When they meet me in real life, they're like, we thought you were a hobbit. Like, you're really tall.
Yes. Every time I always think like, I don't know where I got it in my mind, but in my head, you were no taller than like 5'2". I don't know where I got that from. And every time I see a full body photo of you, I'm like, I forget she's not short.
And it's very interesting because I've been doing some inner work on this and of like, I know I have the thing of like, I want to shrink myself to not sit with the bigness because I never want to make anybody feel small because I always felt like that. And I know what that does to people, but I've learned like you're not in charge of other people's emotions.
Yeah.
But that's one of my lessons of like, there's still that inner person. Like there's the DIY punk zinester. She can still, she's still in there, even though she works with couture, luxury, stuff. But there's still like the political refugee immigrant that, grew up in Chicago with all of her Latino African American friends. Like that's really who I am.
Right?
Like, cause I'll hang out with only American white people. And they're like, there's this side of you that's
look, she's got some seasoning.
Exactly. And I'm like, again, the performer part of me, I'm just like, no, I can't only be around. There's this whole spectrum, like you said. So
yeah,
I like being the big, tall, and I like the inner me. They're all complex.
Yeah, there's space for all of you, all of the parts. Well, thank you so much. I love you, sister.
Thank you for the work you do.
The Sensuality Project is produced, edited, and hosted by me. Music by bensound.com. The Sensuality Project podcast is a production of StaceyHerrera.com.